Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I'd like to give you a Hanukkah present. And my Hanukkah present to you, because I'm a little under the weather, losing my voice and have a bit of a cold, but I'm going to speak a lot less today than I normally do. So you're welcome. Happy Hanukkah. Consonant. I just want to take this time to be able to explain a little bit about what we've been doing this Hanukkah, that we've been doing a little bit differently in Shaarey Zedek this year. So Rabbi and myself got together and we thought instead of doing different kavanot, different intentions every single night of Hanukkah, that we would introduce something that are called midot. So a midah is probably best translated as an intention or a characteristic or a quality. So those of you who have been receiving every day in your email, you have been receiving different ideas to kind of meditate on every single night of Hanukkah. So I think the very first night was Sablanut, patience. There was Hachnasat Orakim, the idea of bringing in guests. There's Rachamim, compassion. There's all these different qualities that we're supposed to think about. And instead of just kind of writing a nice little thing about Hanukkah, we really wanted to challenge you all to be able to take that intention, to internalize it, and to understand that when we're kindling the lights of Hanukkah, that when we're lighting each of these candles, that we're actually supposed to be lighting different qualities within ourselves as well. And this is such it's a beautiful idea, and it seems like a nice and easy idea, but it's hard. It's really hard. And it's nice to be able to say that we can look at these different qualities, and these qualities that we really wish that we could uphold and keep inside us as who we are, but they're not easy. Because all of us are people. And we struggle. And the idea of internalizing these things and making these things who we are is not an easy thing to do. So we came together to try to inspire, to try to craft these so that every single night we're building off the previous night, just as we're lighting an additional candle each night until we eventually have 8 candles that are lit. We want to do the same thing for these different qualities of who we are and who we can be. So the idea of every single night, we just take another quality, knowing that we can never fully do this. We're not perfect. We're not going to be able to hold on to this all the time. But knowing that every single night we can think, we can sit, and we can take 5 minutes to think about how to make ourselves a bit more compassionate. About how we can welcome guests into our house. About how we can be a little bit more patient with ourselves and with those around us. And this works so beautifully with our Torah portion this week. Because Joseph, if you remember last week, we talked about Joseph and all of his amazing ability to interpret dreams and how he is really a sleepwalker. Well, this week we have someone else's dreams. We have Pharaoh's dreams. And Joseph is saved, his life is saved, and the Jewish people are saved by Joseph's ability to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. Now I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. We can remember what Joseph's dreams were, and Pharaoh's dreams were actually kind of similar. They have a very similar idea of numbers representing different things. So Pharaoh's dream, we recall, is that he has this dream that he's by the Nile, and he sees 7 fat calves and 7 skinny calves. He sees 7 fat ears of corn and 7 skinny, dry ears of corn. And Joseph had a similar dream. He also saw himself as sheaves of wheat that were bound. But can anyone tell me what the primary difference is between Joseph's dream and Pharaoh's dream?
The number.
The number? Okay, so what's the number? 11 versus 7. Great. Okay. Anything else that stands out? Okay, so Joseph's dream was about people bowing down to him. It was directly related to his life, while Pharaoh's was more symbolic, that the numbers were representing years of famine. And please.
They both have one thing that's more powerful than the other.
More what than the other?
Powerful.
What are the things that are more powerful than the
Joseph
other?
was more powerful in his dream because they're going down to him. They had the 7 fat cows and the 2 cows.
Great. That's amazing. Thank you. So they both had qualities of their dreams where they had something that was more powerful, that was part of their dreams. So Joseph, in his dream, his brothers are bowing down to him. And for Pharaoh, what did he say for Pharaoh?
They're fat cows and skinny cows.
So the fat cows and the skinny cows, this idea of famine is also greater in his dream. And exactly going off that point, something that I think is even greater than the fat cows and skinny cows in Pharaoh's dream is the presence of the Nile River. So in Pharaoh's dream, he's looking into the Nile. And we know that according to Egypt, the religious ideals of the Egyptian at the time, they looked at the Nile as a god. For the Egyptians, the Nile River represented a god. Because they don't have rain, not a lot of rain in Egypt, and the way that they water their crops, the way that they get their water is from the Nile. But the main difference here is that while Joseph is intricately part of his dream, that his brothers are bowing down to him, that they are sheaved together, Pharaoh is looking on, even in his dream. He is not taking part of any of his dream. And he needs interpretation because he's not even involved in his dream. In his dream, he's looking on. And we can take this as a good way of thinking about what we're doing for Hanukkah and about these different intentions, because the model that we need to use is not the dream of Pharaoh, but the dream of Joseph. That we are intricately involved, that our dreams, that what we are doing is shaping who we are. We cannot sit by the Nile and look into it and try to interpret the world around us. We have to take part. We have to be able to cast our lot. We have to be able to work on ourselves. So for every single night of Hanukkah, I want us to think about, now that we're approaching the very last night, what these different intentions mean, these different midot, and how we can incorporate them into our lives every day, not just during Hanukkah. That we take ideas of compassion, of patience, of welcoming in guests into our home, and we think about those as active participants. That every day, every night, we take a little bit of time, just a minute, just a moment, to be able to think about how we can better ourselves. Because if we're bettering ourselves, then we're bettering our family, our friends, the people around us. On the Shabbat, I wish us that we're not onlookers, but that we're active participants. So again, happy Hanukkah. Enjoy my short Devar Torah instead of a long one. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.